Welcome to the PNF podcast. Like, comment, share, subscribe, click on that bell for notifications. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, give us a follow and give us a rating. That would be fantastic. All right, I've got a few things that I want to promote today from some friends. This, as you can see, I hope you can see it, is the Sick of It All Lou Edition t-shirt. They're selling a limited pressing of some of these designs. You can go on over to their Instagram or Pete Collar's Instagram and pick up a few of these. It's for a good cause. Lou, as you know, had been battling cancer and he had undergone some chemotherapy treatment. And so the proceeds will be going to recoup some of his medical expenses. So, like I said, cool shirts, cool band, good cause. Check it out. And I also wanted to promote again, I'm going to get it right this time, Johnny. Come inside and meet my punk rock family by my good friend John Cuccinello, aka Johnny Miami of the bands OS 101, Hogan's Heroes. It's a really cool book. I shouldn't put it down just yet. It's a comic book or comic book, cartoon book, but it's all the people that he has met within his hardcore and punk rock travels. As you can see here, we got Kevin Seconds and who is that? I don't know. Oh no, that's John and that's Kevin Seconds. Okay. So check it out. The proceeds, good cause as well. 12% of them, I said proceeds this time, John. I got it right. You see, 12% of the proceeds will go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Really great. It's really awesome. I really love the book. I think you will too. Go on over to revhq.com to pick up a copy. Again, limited pressing. Once it's sold out, it's gone. It's gone forever. But they are going to be doing a volume 2. So pick it up. Really cool. My guest today, he is a longtime friend. We have shared the stage with many of his bands. I remember the first time we saw his project. It was called Gadrell at the time, but they later get one of my bands opened up for them. And I remember seeing them, and it was a bunch of guys who were like, looked like they could have walked out of like an Abercrombie and Fitch catalog or something. But then there was a singer, and he had like short bleach blonde hair and an exploited shirt. I was like, what's about to go on here? What are we about to hear? And then you heard just the most inhumane, just brutal music ever, totally unexpected from a group like this. It was wild. It was something else. And then we went on to share stage with some of his other bands. Vanisher. He later became the vocalist for a project called Wretched, which is really amazing as well. Played with one of my former bandmates, Jeremy Stowers, in a project called Graves of Gods, excuse me. And now he's currently fronting a stoner rock, uh, kind of downbeat, sleep-ish type project called HOLYROLLER. They've got an album out called Rat King. You should definitely check it out. Really amazing, but like I said, really awesome dude. He's like a Mike Patton almost. Like he's got such a versatile vocal range, and he's played just about every style of music, metal, hardcore, punk, what have you. Ladies and gentlemen, Adam Cody. Thanks so much for being here, Adam.
Hey, what's going on, man? Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. What's been going on in your world?
Oh, not much, man. Just working a bunch. I'm going to school. Um, Working on becoming an electrician is kind of my goal, and working with Holy Roller and every now and then Glass Casket does a little something. So that's kind of been my world for the last 3 or 4 years.
Are you still playing in Wretched?
No, I'm not in Wretched anymore. Um,
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they're great guys. We're still friends and we still communicate and everything. But their original vocalist, who was on their first two albums, has rejoined, and they have just put a new album out, actually.
Oh, Billy, right?
Yeah, Billy Powers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cool. Well, interesting. I completely had forgotten that you had joined that project. I was like, wait, I think he was in Wretched for a minute. And I went back and listened to all the albums that you had done, and just incredible, man. Like I said, you're a really versatile vocalist. You got a lot of good good talent, and you're
Thank you,
just
man.
absolutely out there killing it. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into Wretched though, but my first question that I wanted to ask, that I typically ask of the musicians that come on the show, is what is your relationship with music growing up? Did you have family members that played music? Did you play in any sort of high school bands? And what was your first non-metal, non-hardcore concert? And then how did that seg into metal, hardcore, punk rock for you?
Um, well, I think it's safe to say that not a lot of people in my family had a whole lot of musical ability. My mom did play the ukulele, and she would sing from time to time, but really kind of discovered it on my own. I mean, my family did play a part in showing me some of my first musical experiences. My dad was really into Bob Dylan and the Beatles. Um, my mom is just kind of like a classic oldies, uh, just feel good, any kind of oldies feel good music. And as a kid, I thought that was super lame, and I was always searching for the more extreme and more angry and the more emotional music. And I found that at a young age, and I think now later in life, I'm really appreciating a lot of the music my parents were suggesting, when I was a kid. But yeah, I guess my first experiences was just kind of neighborhood bands. Um, my next door neighbor um, was a young woman who had kind of like a grunge rock band. This is probably like the mid '90s, early '90s, and so it's kind of the height of that style of music. And I would walk next door and watch her and her band play, and that really was a big influence on me. I just thought it was so cool what they were doing, and it was just so different from the music my parents had been showing me. And um, so yeah, I'd say like that was about the fourth or fifth grade, somewhere around there, and that's what really sparked it. And from there, I really started joining bands at the first chance I could. Um, I was in a band probably 2 or 3 years after that, of just a couple of neighborhood guys, and that's the band that would develop into Glass Casket eventually. Um, but it went through a lot of weird transitions and different people in the band. And originally it was uh, I want to say myself and Blake Tootin, the original guitarist. Um, we had kind of just started jamming because we met at a youth group, and we were kind of the oddballs in youth group that had on like punk band shirts and stuff. But yeah, me and him just like really identified with that kind of rebellious attitude, and we started writing punk songs. Eventually, we started going to some hardcore shows, and uh, just all kinds of different packages in Winston, that uprisings and uh, God, the Millennial Underground, uh,
Ziggy?
YMCA's, Ziggy's, yeah, Brouhahas. Um, so yeah, that was my developmental years was really spent in that scene, from like 16 to 20. um, was just spent going to as many shows as I could and seeing as many different bands in that underground world as I could.
So you started. Was there a band before Gadrell? I seem to recall some of those members were in another band. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, yeah, we were called Narayan. Um,
Ryan, that's right.
yeah, yeah, and we had the band before that was never a band. We didn't release anything, but we had demoed a couple songs and changed some members and became Narayan. And Narayan was basically Gadrell with a different drummer and another vocalist. Um, so we had two vocalists, myself and Andre Clark. He's a great guy, still a buddy of mine. Um, and our drummer was Sanjay Chan, and both great guys. But Andre went on to do automotive stuff and is very successful in that. And Sanjay, I don't know exactly what he does, but he's on Instagram posting some of the most flamboyant stuff, like the most just the craziest parties. He's always at these like huge mega yacht parties and stuff, and so he's doing well, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, sounds like it. Shit. All right. Very cool. And so, like, with Gadrell, and like I said, I think it was either Zig. No, I think it was Brouhaha's where we played with you guys at. And like I said, totally unexpected sound based on like you totally like were aesthetically like matched that sound. But the rest of the guys, I was like, oh yeah, straight out of like a Hollister catalog. I was like, these guys.
Yeah,
When you got up on stage,
it was a
I was
weird
gonna say
thing, you know.
when you got up on stage, I was like, what? Are we about to hear some like Dave Matthews or something? Like, what's going on? And then it was like totally like, oh my god! And like we were so intimidated. We're like, holy shit, this band is really good. We're like, but yeah,
Yeah,
what were you gonna say?
no, that's just it's funny. I hear that a lot, and a lot of people um will tell me the same thing about myself, that like, man, when I saw you play, you had long blonde hair and you're real preppy. And um it's funny to me because I was during that period of time. I was dating this girl that just really got me into. She worked at Hollister, and she literally bought a lot of my clothes and stuff. And I was just a young dude that was like, well, whatever, like I'll wear this, I don't care. But like I grew up in like a very punk rock. I had a mohawk a lot of my youth and dreadlocks, and uh, very much the punk attire. And then when I got in that band, this is kind of funny, but some of the members of uh, Narayan were kind of like, "Hey, man, you're a little too punk rock for us." Like they told me I was dressing too punk and my mohawk was too punk and stuff. And uh,
What?
we were kids, we were like 15, 16 and stuff. And it's stupid thinking back about it. But yeah, I really grew up in that kind of attitude of, you know, trying to shock people and be out there. Like, and then I got into that band, and my uh, priorities changed a little bit. I got more serious with the girls. Some of the mental health stuff started coming up in my life, and I really found the band as more of like a therapy outlet than anything else, honestly.
Yeah, it totally is. As somebody that has dealt with mental health struggles, I can totally relate to that. Having some sort of creative outlet or endeavor definitely helps to kind of mitigate those symptoms because you're taking energy that could be displaced or could go in a bad direction, and you're channeling it into something positive, and you're creating something for others to enjoy, definitely.
Yeah, man. And I think the thing that just drove that so much home for me was hearing people tell me that a song helps them, or did anything for them in any kind of way. It's just it's just a great feeling to know that you created something that moved somebody, even just a dance, or it doesn't have to be as serious as pulling them out of depression, but just knowing that you can improve somebody's day just a little bit, it's just a cool feeling. I think that's like what most musicians are striving for, is just doing that on a big scale.
Totally, totally. And as far as influentially with Gidrell, which, like I said, later became Glass Casket.
Hmm.
And first of all, like influentially, like what were you guys going for, like sound wise? Who were you influenced by at the time? And then what prompted the name change to Glass Casket? Was that because you guys had signed to Abacus? Because I remember that very distinctly. Like everybody was
Hmm.
like, "Oh man, Glass Casket signed to Century Media." We're like, "Whoa, holy shit!" Like and so, like, that was, like, a big deal. Was that kinda what prompted the name change?
I believe it was. I really can't say for sure, but I'm pretty positive that was what was going on. Um, yeah, I really can't put a finger on it exactly why, but I do know it happened right when we signed to Abacus. So I think that's the reason, but I really couldn't say, to be honest with you. Um,
What was the Oh, go ahead.
I do remember we had put out an EP as Gadril, and there was a couple songs on the EP that I don't think everybody in the band really enjoyed, and I kind of think they wanted a fresh start. If I'm being like totally honest, I kind of think that was the case, but we had also changed some band members, and we had had a little bit of change going on, but I think it was primarily to sign to the label. Maybe Gadrell was taken or something like that.
Okay, alright. And what were you guys kinda digging on as far as musically that kinda shaped your sound?
Oh, a lot of different stuff, but like I said earlier, I was going to a lot of hardcore shows, a lot of grinds and punk shows. Um, I think my biggest influence at that time was probably um, a mix of like Pig Destroyer and Converge. Um, those were kind of the bands I was wanting to emulate, but I also really liked death metal. Um, Me and Dusty, the guitarist, both really liked Cannibal Corpse and Dying Fetus, Origin, and Cattle Decapitation. Um, a lot of those groovy death metal and groovy grindcore kind of mixtures. And Dillinger Escape Plan, would have to add them in there. Um, a lot of those early 2000s mathcore, grindcore. Um, we just loved things that were heavy and made people move, and just incited some kind of emotion or action.
Sure. Sure, definitely. And with the band, you guys eventually took that on the road. I remember you toured with Aria, which was, good friends of ours as well. What was
Yeah,
kind of like the experience like on the road as far as, how well you guys were received? Like it seemed like that I recall that that tour went pretty well for you guys and you had a pretty
yeah,
good response as far as yeah.
yeah. We did all the tours we did. We had a great response. They weren't anything like huge, but we definitely, the tour we did with Between the Buried and Me was a really good one. Um, and then we did several kind of like mini holiday break tours and summer tours and stuff like that. And all of those went really well, but it was like any other basically DIY underground metal band tour, like a couple good weekend shows and three or four kind of blah weekday shows and a couple great weekend shows, and it just repeat over and over and over. Uh, so it wasn't like we weren't like killing it, we weren't making a ton of money or anything, but we were coming home, breaking even, and paying off the merch bill, and kind of functioning as kind of like part timers. Um, and yeah, it was actually really fun. It was my first experience, traveling the country and um, just getting out of my hometown, basically. So it was a great experience. I always look back on it with fond memories, even though it was difficult, traveling in a conversion van with your high school buddies trying to like make gas money and, and not beat each other up and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. What was your favorite place to play that wasn't, regionally or locally? What did you like as far as the rest of the United States?
I liked the West Coast a lot. um I really liked the weather and the attitude, and um I felt like I fit in a little better because I'm sure, coming from like a very conservative rural area, um, I feel like sometimes like I don't fit in necessarily with everybody I'm around, and it's not a bad thing, but like, um, yeah, that's when I first went to the West Coast. I was like, I just felt like more sense of open mind, open-mindedness, like, um, all different types of people that I hadn't interacted with. It was just an eye-opening experience for me. Um, and of course, like the West Coast has its pitfalls. Like I saw a lot of homelessness and drug use and stuff I hadn't seen super up close and personal. Um, but that was my experience as like an 18-year-old, was just, oh, this is cool and new, and uh, yeah, I really enjoyed the like skater punk kind of attitude that was just kind of going on around that point in time.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting being out there because a lot of the people that I looked up to as far as musically, I ended up getting to meet, and it was really surreal. And meeting them in the most random of places, like, oh, there's Keith Morris from the Circle Jerks. Oh, there's fucking Henry Rollins in buying groceries in Ralph's, like
Yeah.
that's the weirdest that was the weirdest thing. And yeah, like you said, there is definitely kind of an open-mindedness. When I was growing up, it was like people thought I was from California, and it's like, no, like that's just I just like a lot of stuff that would be more accepted there. And aesthetically, yeah, you can walk into a CVS there and see people that are like in full sleeve tattoos, and
Yeah.
just all sorts of types of people. Like you said, I loved it out there as well. As far as the North Carolina scene, what do you feel about it that sets it apart from any of the other scenes in the country? What do you think about it is unique?
Just the hardcore scene or the music scene in general?
It could be both.
Yeah. I think because there's like, you don't have a million options in this area. Um, People pick and choose, what they're going to go see, what they're going to go do, and they get really invested in it. So I don't know. I think people care about their community a little bit more, because they're going to see those people. They know their names. Like, when I've been on tour and playing, you'll play these big cities over and over, and part of you just feels like, I don't know any of these people or any of these places. I've just rolled in, gotten onto the stage, gotten off and left. And when you're in a small, tight knit community, you know, you're thinking about other people, and you're not just like in it for your moment and then gone. Um, and I think North Carolina, like, they care about each other. Like the bands genuinely care about each other. I don't feel as much competition here anything, I feel more support from other bands around here. So I don't know if that's true for everybody, but I genuinely feel like people are excited to see other people from North Carolina succeeding at what they want to do.
Sure. There is definitely a sense of togetherness and almost family when you go to shows around here. It's really nice to see people that you haven't seen in years and that you haven't, you know, especially when they start a new project or something. You're like, oh, I'm really curious to see what it is that they're doing, and now I
Yeah,
get to share the stage with them, and it's like you are super excited about that, definitely.
yeah, yeah. Just makes a little more community out of it. I'm sure there's community in those bigger places, for the people that are there every day. Um, but part of me feels like it means a little bit more to the people that don't have so many options, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. And with Glass Casket, why did the band kind of run its course? Like I know, like you had mentioned, you guys sporadically do things. In fact, I think I caught you guys in 2008 or 9. You guys did like a reunion show
Yeah.
somewhere. I was pissed drunk, but I had a blast. That was a great time.
Yeah,
Um,
that was fun.
but I know 2 of your members ended up joining Between the Buried and Me. Was that
Hmm.
kind of the reason that the band kinda pumped the brakes a little bit?
Yeah, it was a mix of things. I wouldn't put all the blame on BT Bam, but I know they'd been interested in Blake to play drums for them for some tours, and even kind of offered him the job to play for them kind of years before we broke up. And I remember Blake kind of saying like, I kind of want to focus on this band and kind of focus on school. And his his kind of goals at that time, I feel like, were school and maybe music if it turned out all right. And several other of our members were, going back to four-year universities. And I myself ended up going back to community college. And um yeah, it split up for several different reasons, but I think between the Barrett and me absorbing Blake, and then a tour after that, Dusty, um, that kind of put a pause on us for a long time. And we had kind of gone our separate ways after some of the guys had gone back to school. Um, we weren't communicating as often, and I feel like Dusty and Blake saw the writing on the wall, like this band probably isn't going to continue. So we want to play music, and here's an opportunity to play some cool music. So yeah, I think mixture of guys going to college and the guys that didn't go to college joining Between the Beard and Me um, was kind of the nail in the coffin as far as us for about 20 years or whatever.
The nail in the glass casket.
Holy shit. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
pretty
it's been a
go ahead.
wild ride, like um, there's a few years there where I kind of went back to community college because I didn't know what else to do. Um, I was 18, and I'm just like not making any money from Glass Casket really. We might split up a couple $100 every now and then, or something like that. And a lot of my buddies are going off to college and starting careers and all that other kind of stuff. And I didn't know what to do. I kind of took it personally for a few years, if I'm being honest, and was like, yeah, everybody's leaving me behind. And I don't know, something in me was like, no, I'm going to keep making music. And just because, this band stopped doesn't mean that I can't continue to make music. And um, kind of from that moment forward, I joined as many bands as I could and tried as many styles as I could. And, I had I've talked about it before. Like, had kind of a weird attitude about life. I was very depressed and suicidal throughout that whole time, and I lost my sister to suicide a few years before that, or that year. Some, yeah, around the time I was 18, and so I was really depressed. I was abusing Xanax and Klonopin and marijuana constantly, and I was just not healthy in my minds, but my mentality was, my sister died at 21. There's no reason that I'm a fuck up. Like, there's no way I'm gonna make it to 21. So I just put out as much music as I could, and just lived for the moment for a long time. And it's not healthy. It's not something I suggest other people do. Um, but I don't regret it. I just had to dive into something, and that something was as many projects, as much music, just making a record that I was here, and this is this is what I want people to know. And that was kind of the way I thought about life as a adolescent.
Far as the recovery for you, was music your only outlet, or did you do any other things like a treatment program or anything to kind of get you back on track?
No, I just very slowly started working on it. I think I don't know what the moment was that things really changed, but because I spent a good 10 or so years, after that, after my early 20s, doing the same things, abusing all that stuff. And it's really not been until the last 10 years of my life that I've been getting healthier, and dropped any medicine that I'm dependent on. Um, the only thing, my only vice at this point in time is smoking weed. And I kind of use it as a clutch because I abused Xanax for so many years. It was the only thing that helped me sleep and like silenced all the running thoughts and um, anxiety and all that. And so when I got off of it, it took me a couple of years of like smoking a lot of weed and taking a medicine my doctor suggested to help me transition off of benzos. Um, and yeah, I did that for a couple of years, and then I started realizing that I'm going to be alive a while, and I need to care about my body. And I started exercising and quit smoking cigarettes, and um, just trying to make some progress. Like, I'm not sober by any means. I don't drink alcohol, uh, but I do take my um, antidepressant and a mood stabilizer, and I smoke a lot of marijuana. So,
Well, good for you, dude. I'm glad you're doing better. And I can totally relate to all those points because, you know, with myself, yeah, I did kind of self medicate for a while. And to me, when I would couple the narcotics and the street drugs with the antidepressants and the mood stabilizers, they kind of created a bigger imbalance in me. And so I was like, I got to get off this shit. I got to stop doing that. And if I
yeah.
don't take any sort of medication, I'll end up under a bridge in Raleigh. If folks. If you're from North Carolina, you know the story. And it's funny to me now, but it wasn't at the time. It was absolutely terrifying. But Yeah, if you were at that show, you know. But no, dude, I'm really glad that you have been able to make some positive changes in your life and that you are, kind of making moves as far as like your career and what you're doing musically. I think that's awesome. Like that's a huge
Thanks,
success
man.
and you've had a lot of adversity to kind of overcome and I think that you're making the right decisions and you're on the right track. You're doing a good thing.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I feel
Yeah.
like I've been really lucky, honestly. Like my wife is great. She's really supportive. Um, she's been the reason I've been able to go on a lot of the tours that I have, mm, holding down rent for us and, taking care of our dogs. And, she's really supported me and I can't say enough good things about her because I couldn't have done a lot of the things I've been able to do without her. Um, and also the musicians I've been able to play with, man. Like, I'm not ignorant to the fact that, I've been the vocalist for a ton of bands with like some amazingly talented guitarists, drummers, bass players, and vocalists. And, I couldn't, I would have never done any of the fun stuff I've been able to do without those guys. Um, I feel I've been very lucky, being in a band with Dusty and Blake, Sid, and currently Steven Funderburk has been playing guitar with us um, from Wretched. So it's and all the guys in Wretched. God, those guys are all extremely talented. Columns guys, Graves of Gods, Holy Roller guys. Just been really blessed in that sense. Like, very fortunate.
And like with somebody that's like a ride or die, I mean, that's what your wife sounds like. That's when you found a really special person to be able to, you know, I mean, that's what, girlfriends, boyfriends, spouses should do is kinda support each other through difficult times and not kinda take the high road when or take the high road, you know, uh, split off whenever, something goes awry or whatever. You're kinda supposed to be there to support each other. Did you meet her through playing music?
No, I met her through a friend I used to work with. Um, he had been dating a girl for a week or two, and it didn't really work out. And he was like, "Yeah, it's not working out." And so I asked him if I could take her on a date, and he's like, "Yeah, whatever." And went to the restaurant she worked at because I'd seen her once before and thought she was really pretty. And um, yeah, I just asked her out, and we went on a date. Pretty much, there's been a few ups and downs. We were together for um, 10 years or so, a little less than 10 years, and um, had a couple year break where we did go our separate ways for a little while. But, um, that was all a part of growing up, trying to travel and be in a relationship was not the easiest for me. I get overwhelmed easily with uh, just social functions. And, once I get on tour, my mind space is in the van and in what we're doing, and I'll just forget to communicate with people. And I did a pretty bad job of that for a while, and we had a little separation, but um, we've worked through that for a long time now. We've been married for uh, 6 7 years.
Awesome. That's great, dude. I love hearing that. I think that's absolutely amazing. I think that's something that everybody can aspire to, and I think everybody would want. With Vanisher, because my third band,
Yeah,
Tyrannus, we played with you guys quite a few times actually.
yeah,
How did you guys get linked up with them? I remember Kyle was in the group, and Kyle is kind of like a jack of all trades musically. I know he did recording and whatnot. How did
yeah.
you get connected with them?
So I was in a band called Anything on Fire with Justin Reich and a couple of my good friends. And Justin Reich does photography and um, design work and video work, still to this day. But back
He's a
then,
really good music video director, by the way. His stuff is
yeah,
like
he's
mind blowing.
amazing, dude. He's a really
Yeah.
talented guy, and he can sing, and he's a great guitar player and bass player. Um, but yeah, we were in a band called Anything on Fire, and he was telling me about this band he had just started playing bass and singing in. It was kind of like a heavy metal, like um, not exactly new metal, but like new wave metalcore kind of stuff, and very Kill Switch Engage was kind of what Justin Reich told me. And
Mhm.
he was like, "Yeah, we're jamming with the vocalist now. We're not sure if it's going to work out, and um, if you want to try and demo something, you're welcome to." And I can't remember exactly how it happened, but it was something kind of like that. And I think I just went and demoed something with Kyle because, most of our time was either at his house demoing songs or practicing in the studio, or practicing at the practice space. And yeah, I immediately clicked with Kyle. He's just like extremely relatable, funny guy, um, great production, great guitar playing and writing ability. Um, I just thought like, God, this guy's got the whole package. Like, we got to make some songs, and we made like fucking 60 songs or something like that. We're just constantly making
Whoa.
making music. Um, and it was really cool, man. It was a different kind. I'd never been in a band like that where one guy was writing, 90% of the material. And I'd always been in bands that had kind of like a riff here, riff there. Um, I mean, there's usually a majority composer of a band, but in Vanisher, it was very much like, here's a song I wrote. You guys want to play it? And he let me do whatever I want on the vocals, but he did have a, kind of a calculated vision of what he wanted to accomplish in that band. And it worked for a few years. We released some cool music and had fun doing it. And I think ultimately I was just looking for something a little more aggressive. Um, and when the opportunity came to play with Wretched, um, I was kind of like, I think this is more what I'm looking to do, honestly. Like, um, I was more of a melodic death metal, hardcore uh, interest at that point in time, and Vanisher was kind of trying to go more in a cleaner radio rock direction, mm, which they did. After I left the band, they put out, um, I believe, at least one full-length album with Justin Wright singing, and it was awesome. It was cool stuff. It's just
Yeah.
uh, slightly different musical direction than I was looking to go, I think.
Sure. Yeah. I think I remember that too, that Justin kind of took over the vocal duties and
Hmm.
yeah, you kind of moved on to Wretched. As far as you know how you guys got linked up, did they just ask you to play? I think I remember they were trying out vocalists or something, and did
They
they just touch with you?
they asked my other band at the time, Columns, to open a show for them. I believe it was they had just released Beyond the Gate, their second album, and I think they were coming home from a long tour, and they asked us to open a show in Charlotte and at Tremont, and we opened the show, and I knew who they were, but I hadn't really listened to the music a lot at that point. And we played the show, it was fun, and then I watched their set and was just blown away by how talented. they were, the stage show they put on. You know, they had two guys that were circle headbanging like this, like the whole time, and in perfect unison with each other. It was just like a beautiful show. They did all this instrumental material that was just mind blowing. And I just remember thinking, like, God, I'd love to sing for this band. And I think I either emailed Steven, the guitarist, or told him, you ever need somebody to fill in on vocals, like I'd love to do it. And I think he responded with our vocalist just left. Um, it was like a quick, like, I think Billy had, I don't know the details except that after that tour, the tour was a struggle for them or the whole band. I don't really know exactly, but I think he left after that tour, and they had several tours lined up already. So I just kind of jumped on and just toured with them for about a year before we did that first album together.
Let's rewind a little bit because you have some projects that I know you've been in a bunch of projects. Columns. What
Yeah,
what was that all about? I don't think I ever actually heard Columns, but I do remember the name now. What
yeah.
was that all about? Like as far as stylistically, like what were you guys kind of genre? Like fill us in here because I'm like I oh yeah, Columns. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Collins is a grindcore band. Um, for the most part, it's very punky grindcore with bits of death metal kind of pushed into it. But our favorite, like our big influence was probably Napalm Death. Um, our songs were all like less than a minute and fast and in your face, and it's really fun stuff. We put one album out on Relapse Records, and called Please Explode, and we put out a couple EPs in between there. And Collins was the band I was in for a long time. It actually started shortly before Glass Casket started slowing down. I kind of saw that Blake was doing some tours with BT Bam, and I kind of had a feeling that the band was not going to be active in a few years. So I was like, I think this is a good idea. Start jamming with some other people, and Collins just kind of came up to. How did that happen? Um, I think they just reached out to me through Dusty or something like that. Because their guitarist Jake Troth would end up being the guy that took over guitars for Blake Tootin when he went to college. Um, so when
I
Blake
went to
Tootin,
college with him actually.
oh yeah, did you?
Yeah, I did. I remember I was working at the mall and he walked in and I was like, "Oh shit, what's going on, dude?" And he was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And he's like, "I'm going to school here." I'm like, "Oh shit, me too." Anyway,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that's cool, man. I love Blake. He's a great guy.
And Jake Troth, I actually met in LA because again, I was
Oh
working. I was
yeah.
working the door at a club and he walks in and hands his ID and I was like, "Wait, you're in some bands in North Carolina?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Dude, I don't think we had ever met, but I was like, I know who you are, you know?" And he was like, I was like, "What are you doing out here?" And I don't remember what he was doing exactly. I think it was something in film. Does that sound right?
He is honestly, I got to catch up with him because
No,
he
with
was.
music.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I know he was writing a lot of like hip hop beats for like some huge names, like Big Boy from Outkast, and I don't know, there's a lot of huge names he was producing songs for. And then he started releasing solo material that's kind of like singer-songwriter, indie rock sort of stuff. And it is
Mhm.
good, man. Like
Is it?
he's a really talented guy. Um, he actually, so yeah, we started columns with him in the band. And maybe a year after we started, he kind of decided he was not into playing metal and wanted to focus on more indie rock kind of stuff, uh, and hip hop. So, you know, probably like 2005 or six, Jake Troth was kind of like, I'm out of this. uh, and got really successful producing for hip hop guys and stuff like that.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah,
So
that's crazy you
columns,
bumped into him.
yeah, no, it was weird. That happened a few times with a few different people that I knew from North Carolina. I'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing out here?" You know? But like, yeah, like I said, I didn't really know him, and it's funny because he came in with like a fedora and like completely looked like LA hipster style. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of what happens when you go out there. You know, especially like if you're in the musical field. Girls always have the like Stevie Nicks hat, like the
Yeah.
Burning Man, like Stevie Nicks
Yeah.
kind of real flowy clothing stuff, and the guys
The
always got like the
Bohemian.
fedora. Yeah, bohemian. That's a good word for it, actually. Girls always they would have like flowy dresses, and the guys would have like fedora or a trilby or something like that, and just be looking all
Yeah.
swagged out and everything. That's kind of how he looked. It was funny. It was great, actually.
Yeah, him and do you know Tosin Abasi?
Osten Obasi used to play in Reflux,
Yes.
and him and Ash Avildsen and the rest of the band, I don't remember the rest of their names, they actually stayed at my house
Oh,
when,
no
I
shit.
think one of my bands, played with them, Stained Glass
Was
Romance, actually, and,
was that when we
what's up?
toured with him? Because Glass Casket toured with him once in the US. Um,
I think it would have been later on. This was, I think, before they were signed or everything. But I saw him and I was like, man, this guy's good. I was like,
yeah.
he's gonna be something. If he doesn't stay in this band, he's gonna be something. But yeah, what about him? Did you?
I was just gonna say when we toured with him, it was about the same, probably the same time, because it was like it was well before Ash started the label or anything like that, and they were just I think they're on Prosthetic Records. That's right.
Prosthetic, yeah,
Um, so this is probably 2003. But Tosin was kind of just your average like metal dude, wore band t-shirts and ripped up jeans and shit like that. And then after he's gotten much more successful, I saw him at a show with Animals as Leaders. Um,
yeah,
and he was kind of the same way, he had the fedora and like a teal suit. And I was like, damn, he looks different, man. But yeah,
yeah,
whatever. Whatever you
yeah.
want to do is fine
No,
with me.
I kind of switched it out when I was out there, like especially during COVID, like I adopted like I'd never been like a I'm gonna wear all black type guy. And then COVID hit and it was I don't know if it was maybe a shift in my mood or something. Oh man, this sucks. Depression mode, and like just like all black, like denim jackets and shit like that. And like, I
Yeah.
mean, it's an interesting place. You definitely kind of make some transformations when you're out there. But yeah, Tosin, it's funny. Okay, I'm gonna tell this story now. Whenever they stayed here, I mean, it was my folks' house, and I was like, "Hey, this band wants to stay. Is it okay?" And they came and like made their own food while they were here. Like they were cooking, and I remember my mom was like, "Oh, those boys were so nice. That's such a nice group of young men." You know. My mom just she's nice like that. She loves the world. But
Oh,
yeah,
Evan Brewer was in that band too, right?
Evan Brewer. I don't recognize that name.
He was the bass player for him.
Oh,
Maybe not
okay.
that point in time.
Did he go on to other things?
Yeah, he was in God, what was it Animosity and the Faceless for a little while.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, he's a badass
Well,
dude.
okay, the faceless. Here we go. This is like a 6 degrees of separation of metal.
Yeah,
My boss, I worked at the Deja Vu Gentlemen's Club in Hollywood, and
yeah.
my boss was one of the guitar players of the Faceless.
Oh, no shit. Um, do you remember his
Wild.
name?
Ah, God, what was his name? He was a short guy. He was
Michael?
half black, half white. Maybe. And I don't
Oh,
know if he was the current guitar player, but he had played at one point with them. God, what was his name? Ah, it's gonna bug me. I'll have to look it up. But yeah,
because you
we
know, one of their guitar players is who helped Glass Casket write the last album that we just put out.
no way.
Wes. Yeah. Wes Houck. He's
Okay,
not not in the Faceless anymore. Um he's in a band called Alluvial, and
okay.
they're awesome if you haven't checked them out. They're like very similar to Glass Casket, like real groovy, technical, kind of death metal, hardcore mixture kind of stuff.
Right, right. To kind of bring it back to Glass Casket for a second. Yeah, you guys did a second album, which honestly I thought you guys had been defunct for a while. Like I think it was like maybe like a 4-year gap in between those albums. And then it
Yeah.
was like, oh, Glass Casket has a new album. And then, kind of a different sound. Like it was definitely a little bit more streamlined. And you guys had some instrumental stuff going on. And that was a really interesting album. I thought it was great, and forgive me, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it was dynamically kind of, I don't want to say completely different, but a little bit I would say more mature than the previous album.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from a lot of people were surprised at the difference in the two albums, and I can hear it for sure. The weird thing for me is on the vocals, at least on the first album, I was focused and angry and just like ready to go. And the second album was where I had started slipping into some of that addiction, and I was sloppy and suicidal and depressed, and I can hear it in the vocal delivery, and I just feel like I didn't do my best on that album. Um, but a lot of people like, really like the guitar, like the songwriting, changed so much in those two, and I can definitely hear that. Like the songwriting had kind of become songs as opposed to just a bunch of riffs shoved together. Um,
Sure.
but yeah, I thought it was a really fun album. I think the one that we just put out is um, maybe the one I'm happiest with personally. I don't,
Wait, so there's a new album.
yeah. Oh, it's
Oh,
I guess EP. Um,
okay.
yeah,
I I
yeah. We
w
just put
I
it
was
out.
going back and, like, revisiting some of the catalog on Spotify, and I did not see it on there, so I was like, I wasn't aware. I knew you guys had played shows, but I didn't know if you were releasing new material or not. Is it same lineup?
Um, this is the one with everybody except for Jake Troth or Blake Tootin. So we had Wes
Okay,
from the uh, Alluvial playing guitar on that one with Dusty.
okay,
But
okay, alright.
but yeah, it's still
So this
Sid
is
playing
brand
bass.
new.
Yeah, well, it came out God, last year, this year.
Okay, okay, okay,
Yeah, it's
okay.
all
I'm gonna
good.
I'm gonna have to check that one out. Everybody's gonna have to check that out.
Yeah,
So
it's on
kinda like,
Silent Pendulum Records.
okay. All right. Yeah. Everybody, if you're listening, check that out. I'm gonna go check it out for sure. Um, so with Wretched, you know, you you had left the band, or what? Because I guess Billy, you said rejoined, and then what happened from like how did that kind of take place? Like you just said, I'm not into it, or I'm doing something else in my life, and then you moved on. Because those are really good albums with you, man. I think you're like
Thank you, man.
really appropriate for that sound. It was because I'd
Appreciate that,
heard
man.
the first two albums, and then I was like, I went checked out the stuff that you did with them, and I was like, holy shit, this is mind blowing. Like so. What kind of brought that about as far as your departure from the band?
Um, let's say like we were touring a lot, and just really grinding it out. doing every tour we could, and some of them weren't the best, and we were really stretched thin and stressed out. And I kind of, during a lot of that touring, was kind of slowly finding myself listening to less and less like extreme metal. And like I still enjoy it to this day and everything, but there's a point in time where I was like, I don't think I'm gonna find anything heavier than what I'm already listening to. And I'm not as angry as I once was, and so I'm just finding my taste changing over time. And during that time, I started like a sludgy, doomy kind of rock and roll band called The Swamp, and just
Oh, the
got
Swamp.
really into
Yeah,
like
I remember
rock
them.
and roll. Yeah, we
Yeah,
did. We were around for a year or two, I think, and um, yeah, I really got into just that style, just heavy rock and roll, um, stoner rock, doom, kind of sludge mixtures, and uh, honestly, I just found myself like not as into the direction, and like the music they're putting out right now is amazing. And
they're
if I
still
found
around.
myself, yeah, like or not the Swamp, I'm sorry, the guys at Wretched. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, like they're still making amazing music, but like I could just feel myself like losing the inspiration to keep doing it. And
Sure.
I think they were kind of eager to get back at it after a couple year break. Um, and they kind of hit me up. And we're like, hey, we're kind of getting things back together. Like, you any interest in doing it? And I told Steven that I just don't think I could handle it with, I had a full time job that I was excited about for the first time in probably my life. And I've had tons of jobs, but this is the first one with benefits, and you know like
As you get as you get older, that shit becomes important, right?
yeah, 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 man, that was a big part of it. The pandemic, that really changed my thoughts on being a full-time touring musician. um I don't know, that shook it up. There's I always want to be a musician and play music, but I think the pandemic was kind of the thing that told me, you can't rely on this for everything.
Right.
um but I'd love to get back out there and do some short tours, you know, just for fun, basically, like week or two, couple weeks a year or whatever. Um, that's the kind of touring I would like to do personally.
Yeah. Just something extremely limited, and then you can still have a career where you do have benefits. You're not like working on like a $5 a day per diem or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I respect that too. And I think the pandemic kind of shifted perspectives for a lot of people. It definitely did for me, and kind of made me reprioritize what was actually important in my life. With Graves of Gods. That's my boy,
Yeah.
Jeremy Stowers, which thanks, Jeremy, for helping to set this up.
Yeah.
Because I played in bands with him before. He's like a brother to me.
Yeah. I love
I
Jeremy,
have to
man.
ask this question. I have to ask this question. Did you be like, did Jeremy be like, all right, here's what I'm hearing, man. And then like hum out a riff to you.
You know him too
Love you,
well.
Jeremy. I love you, Jeremy.
He loves to
He
mouth
used
out the rhythms
yeah,
and
he used to like send little audio clips. You'd be like, all right, here's what I'm hearing. And then like vocalize the notes that he wanted and stuff. And sometimes it actually works. Sometimes but
yeah,
other times
it
I'm like,
does.
what are you what?
I'm the
So
same way, honestly. Like I love trying to mouth shit out, and it's never comes out the way I think it should.
right, right. But you guys got like a real kind of the comparison that I made to it was Crowbar. Like
Yeah,
it's definitely got those metallic guitars, and it's
yeah.
slow and it's sludgy, and it's just it's like beefy almost. And I don't think Jeremy played in anything after Deathblow, but how did you guys get linked up as far as, you know, did he think of the idea, or was it other people, or how did you guys form?
So, so I took a job working for Jeremy, doing maintenance, um, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Okay.
And yeah, so I was cooking at the time and touring. Those were kind of like my occupations. And when the pandemic hit, kind of stopped touring at that point in time, was just cooking and working on a hay farm part time. And
Oh,
I remember, you know, when all the restaurants were closing and, all that was kind of chaos was happening, I, uh, I was like, I kind of got to get out of the restaurant business. And, Jeremy offered me a job working with him. And I took that and, learned a whole lot and kind of moved my way up into a different position, doing just renovating apartments now. And yeah, that was, I still am very thankful of Jeremy for helping me out in that. And he's been a great friend to me throughout the years, just through my mental health struggles. He's, very often first one to call me and be like, "Hey, let's get up. You need to talk. Let's talk."
yeah.
Um,
Me too, man. Like he's probably one of the closest things I've had. I don't have any like blood brothers per se, but like yeah, probably one of the closest things I've had to a brother, and he's definitely kind of been there for me through my shit, and so that man, that warms my heart, man. Like that's really good to hear that he's kind of like that with just about anybody that he's close to.
he's a great guy, man. I really do like him a lot and love him a lot. He's a brother to me as well. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just remember the formation of Graves of Gods was had something to do with the Seduction, the band The Seduction that featured Brandon Hamby, um, who is the guitarist of Graves of Gods.
Yeah.
I
End
think
of all.
yes, yeah, end of all,
Mhm.
and that's how him and Jeremy knew each other. And I think Brandon had the idea of doing a band, and I don't know how I got introduced into that, whether it was Brandon or Jeremy, but me and Jeremy had known each other and lived very close to each other for a long time. So um, it just worked out really easy, man. I'm bummed the bands didn't get to release. We have like a almost an album's worth of material, and we just kind of got sidetracked by the pandemic. Um, I think there was like some differing opinions of how serious it was and should we play music at all and was it safe to get up in a room. There's young kids and some families there, and
Sure.
so it was a weird time, and we kind of just put things on pause until we could start it back up. And I don't know, we just never started it back up.
Just never have. Who knows? Maybe you will. Maybe you will.
Yeah,
The
yeah, we
pandemic
talk about it still.
the pandemic destroyed a relationship for me. Like,
Oh, really?
oh yeah. Well, I mean, my lung was um injured whenever I was hit by a car when I was crossing the street, and like it collapsed one of my lungs, so I was at high risk, because it was affected like the bronchial systems in the body.
Hmm.
And the girl that I was seeing at the time, we had to kind of like isolate from each other. I didn't want to infect her, and then the relationship just completely dissipated, and I was like, well, shit, like thanks
Yeah.
COVID, like
Yeah, it was weird,
kill
man.
bands, kills businesses, like, fuck it.
Yeah,
Like, that what a time. Yeah. Well, I
it
mean, I
was
hope you
crazy.
guys do play again. I never got to see
Yeah,
you guys, and I was happy to see that Jeremy was playing music, and I forgot that Brandon was in the band. So I think that, because I know Brandon from End of All and stuff, and so that is kind of
yeah,
good to hear that he was playing again. So who knows? Maybe you guys will.
yeah. I know we're all still friendly and still keep in touch. I just, um, yeah, I know Brandon's gotten really busy producing music at his studio there in Elkin,
Hmm.
Dead Peasant Studio. Um, and then Jeremy, he was my boss at the property we were working at together, and then he moved his way up the company into like a corporate job.
Hmm.
Um, so he's very busy. So I just don't know. I don't know when we would do it, but I would love to, man, because everybody in the band I really enjoy being around. And Brandon is a really talented dude as well. He writes some really cool riffs and stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Present day, Holy Roller.
Yes.
What's up? Like, how did that come to be?
So basically, when the pandemic hit and we were, um, just trapped inside, uh, I've always been a overachiever when it comes to writing songs. And, there's maybe 10, 15 years where I would write, a song or two a week. Just guitars, drums, bass, maybe vocals. And I now have, just hundreds and hundreds of demos that I've made. And originally, I wrote those demos for The Swamp and for Graves of Gods. Um, they were two kind of different projects, but in the same kind of ballpark. And once Graves of Gods really kind of just stopped, um, I took it as just kind of an opportunity to release a bunch of music. And just started working with a buddy of mine, Jay, who he had come to some Swamp shows, and I knew his bands from the past, and we just kind of run in similar circles for a long time. And I remember when the Swamp had broken up, I asked if he wanted to play drums for him, and the band never reformed. So me and Jay just started kind of recruiting people to play with us, and we basically just recruited our buddies, people we knew from around town, and um, one guy, Jason Kincaid, he's in bands, Deals on Bombs and Through Old Aggression, and then my other buddy Jim Mayberry is just a super talented guitarist, vocalist, and I asked him to join, and we basically during the pandemic put out a 8-song EP, and yeah, ever since then we've released two more albums now, um, one on Black Doomba Records, and then our newest one is on Ripple Music. And yeah, man, it's just been really fun, kind of writing whatever we want to write. Um, our goal is kind of heavy stoner rock, um, sometimes metal, sometimes a little doom. But yeah, it's been fun. It's the first band I've ever played guitar and really done clean vocals in. So it's been like a learning experience for me for sure.
Sure, you get this comparison a lot, but it reminds me of Sleep. Like, I thought I was listening to Sleep for a second. I was like,
Cool.
"Oh, shit." Like, yeah.
I love High on Fire. I love Sleep. Uh, yeah, dude, there's big influences for sure.
Yeah.
I think
Have you ever heard
like,
Ohm?
yeah. Oh yeah.
I think the vocalist from, because when Sleep split, they went and did High on Fire and then Ohm, and, like, Ohm to me, I mean, I like Sleep, but Ohm to me is, like, next level. Like, it's
Yeah.
just, like, they took everything that Sleep did and completely almost made it a spiritual experience. Like that's really what it is. And from everybody that's seen them live, because I
Hmm.
think they played in a tomb somewhere, like in Egypt. Like they played
Yeah,
in an
the
actual like
catacombs.
crypt or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't. I think that's. I think that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's some cool stuff, man. Like, I'm a fan of just any kind of music. Like I really. There's a handful of genres I don't listen to much of. Like, I'm not a big fan of like '90s pop country. That's one. It's one thing I can't get into. Like
Okay.
Shania
I think
Twain stuff.
90s produced well, yeah, the pop country. I think like the 90s produced some of the best country music, like,
There was some.
Garth Brooks and Randy Travis and yeah.
I did like Garth Brooks. I don't know. I was very particular about country until honestly, I listen to more country now than I ever have in my life. And uh yeah, I mean, anything with talent and that's interesting, doing something creative, like I'll listen to it.
Yeah. What's something that you listen to that would surprise people?
Ooh. Um, I've become a big Billie Eilish fan. Um,
Really?
yeah, she's like super talented, man, and like I find myself occasionally crying to her music.
Wow.
It's really,
Okay.
it's really good stuff. Like, uh, you hear the name Billie Eilish and you kind of think like pop star, probably dumb,
Yeah,
music written for her, but it's not. It's like her and her brother. Her brother produces, and then she's doing her vocals and lyrics. And
sure.
but I like everything, man. I love reggae. I love hip hop. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's really not much I don't listen to. I listen to a lot of pop now, and R&B is something I've always been big into. Um, I love the classic kind of stuff, Temptations, and just anything that mellows you out is something I'm probably listening to.
Sure.
Uh, unless I'm in the gym or driving. Sometimes those two places, those are where I throw on the intense
More
stuff.
extreme stuff. Yeah, of course. Got to, man. You got to. Um, it's funny. I got real into Lana Del Rey for a minute, and
Yeah.
Justin Reich was actually the one who got me into that. I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
because I always, well, not directly, but like I always saw him like posting her songs on Spotify, and I went and
Yeah.
listened to it. I was like, oh my God, this is really good. Like I
Yeah.
would have never listened to this ordinarily, and she's just I don't really know what she reminded me of, just something from, like, a different era of music, and, like, her
Yeah.
songs are very, like, just chill, and I have been told that she works with, like, a producer, or she comes from, like, Money or something, but I don't know, I it's good.
I do.
Fucking
Yeah.
it
That's how I
works,
feel
for
about
sure.
Amy Winehouse. Like when I heard Amy Winehouse, I was like, this is cool as fuck. Like
Yeah,
this is like another generation. And somehow she's like replicated it like perfectly.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree, I agree. Um, as far as All right. So I always ask this question. What's one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Um, I would tell myself you're gonna live a long life and beat that into your head because to plan on, just disappearing at 21 just is unhealthy and not the right way to go. Like, take your time and do it right the first time. You know, I think that's ultimately you're going to live a long life, brush your teeth, quit smoking. Those two things alone are going to save you money and time and God, so much stress. Uh,
Mhm.
I don't know, like everything else, fuck it all up. But just remember your body, you might have to take care of it. You might be here longer than You think?
Yeah. Well, when you're growing up, you think that because these things are told to you by authority figures, usually your parents, like, go to sleep
Yeah,
on time, get 8 hours of sleep, brush your teeth, do all this stuff. You look at it like they're tyrants. And then as you
yeah,
get older, you're like, oh, that was actually for my benefit.
yeah.
But
They were right.
you don't see
They
that
were
at the
fucking
time,
right.
Yep.
And nobody
It's
wants to
crazy.
hear that, and I'm sure no young people will ever listen to me tell them that, but like if I could, that's the point I would drive into my head. You might be here a little longer.
You ever hear that? It's like a hip hop parody song where he's like, read a book, read a
Yeah.
goddamn book, brush your teeth, brush your teeth.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, shit. Like,
It's the truth,
that's
man.
my jam right there. It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
That's
As as far as like media, like, what are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to?
um if I'm being honest, I haven't read much in a while. I aside from like textbooks and school books and stuff like that. I really liked Into the Wild. Um and the last author I was really into was Chuck Palahniuk. Um wrote like Fight Club and a ton
Yeah.
of other really cool books.
Choke.
Um Choke, yeah. I
Yeah.
think I've read everything he's ever done, but that was probably the last author that I was like, this guy's writing some cool shit. Uh
He's a fucking weirdo.
yes. Yeah. But yeah,
He's
if
a
you got
weird
any
guy.
suggestions, man, I'm open to them. If any.
Well, not a lot of fiction to be truthful. Which I love fiction and I would prefer to read fiction actually, but like self self-help books, ironically, like I
Yeah.
got real into uh Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, How to Win
Okay.
Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. Um John Joseph just recommended me a book called The 12-Week Year, which I just got the other day and I haven't read yet, but that's supposed to be a good one. J. Paul Getty
Okay.
wrote a book because I was all right. So a lot of these like titans of industry, like Carnegie, and I read a book by because I went to the Getty Museum in Santa Monica, and there was a book called How to Be Rich by J. Paul Getty, and I was like, it was $5, so I was like, "Well, I know how you would be rich. You'd be selling books, like How to Be Rich?" But I bought the book, and oddly enough, it's not what you would think it is. It's
Yeah.
not like he has some very insightful words and very insightful, like, just ways that he looks at life, and I really like that one a lot. I just read Ray Cappo's book, From Punk to Monk.
Yeah.
A lot of audiobooks too, because I don't really get the opportunity to sit down like when I'm like moving around, it's easier for me to focus. But when I sit, I want to do something more active.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks because it used to be the opposite for me. I used to be able to just sit and watch like a 3.5 hour David Lean movie, but
Yeah.
now I fucking I'm always doing something. So if I'm absorbing it, it's through like audio usually. But wait, you said Into the Wild, the book or the movie?
The book. Um,
W-
yeah.
Did they base the movie off that?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. My dad
Yeah.
keeps recommending the movie to me, so I may have to give it a
Oh, it's
shot.
great. Yeah, the
Yeah.
movie's great
Yeah.
too, honestly. Um,
Okay. Uh-huh.
yeah, that was a really just a moving story. Especially well, I don't want to ruin it for you if you don't know it.
I think I know the ending. I think somebody told me the ending, but I would still probably watch it anyway. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's got some really uh just I don't know, when you're a young person trying to like figure out your way in life, I feel like that movie and the book, um have a few lessons. You know, life's not all about the money. It's more about the experience and who you're sharing that
Totally.
experience with.
Totally. Yeah. Because I mean, you know, money, I mean, I guess it could buy you experiences, but good
Yeah.
experiences don't always come from money. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm also a realist. Like you got to pay your bills, but uh, that's not what people are going to remember about you is how much money you made. It's whether you were a good person or not, or
Totally.
if you made them laugh or whatever.
Yeah. No, that definitely. That's definitely right as far as, you know, how you make an impact on somebody's life. And you've done that with music. Like you said, you really appreciate whenever somebody says, "Oh, that really kind of helped me through a bad time, that song, that album, whatever." Like I think that that's great. That it's really gratifying to think that something you did mattered.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. That's I get into that thinking about, I haven't had any kids, and part of me is like, who's going to remember all this cool stuff I did? If I don't have any kids, who's going to give a shit about this? But
Well, I think ultimately the most important person would be you, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what it should be. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I look back on different albums for different experiences, and I mean, those Glass Casket albums were 100%, for me. Um, and if people enjoyed or got anything out of it, that was a big bonus. Um,
sure,
but back then I was a really selfish person, and all I thought about was how am I going to survive this, and just in my own head, my own thoughts. Um, and I think as I've aged and matured a little bit, there's parts in like the Holy Roller album that I put in there because I knew other people might enjoy them, and my mindset's kind of changed a little bit in that sense.
sure, sure. What can we expect from Holy Roller in the near future?
We're so we just put out that new album. We're just trying to play as many shows as we can, and um, we're already writing some new stuff. So hopefully, we'll have some kind of news to share about that in the next 6 months or so. Um, but yeah, that's Holy Roller's goal is just to put out consistent, good music and not really kill ourselves on the road. Um, but just kind of challenge ourselves to do some new stuff and just have fun doing it.
Excellent. Well, dude, I'm hoping to be able to come catch a show sometime if you guys are ever in this area or in Winston. It's been a minute since I've been up to Winston. I'd like to go up and visit
Yeah.
that knucklehead Jeremy and some other folks up there. So hopefully he'll do it around the time that you guys are playing, and I'll hop in and catch out the sonic stoner amazingness that is Holy Roller.
Yeah, come check it out, man. We're playing, I think, in Gastonia, at the Rooster on November 22nd, I believe.
Okay, I've been to that
So,
venue actually. It's kind of cool. November
yeah.
22nd.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
November
check the date
22nd.
on that. But well, cool, dude. Man, I appreciate you so much for being here. Like I said, I'm
Yeah,
glad
thank
to
you,
hear
man.
that you're Yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're doing well, man, because I spoke to you a while back, and you know, I'm here for you, man. Like, as somebody that's kinda
Thank you.
had some of the same struggles, like, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm always willing to lend an ear, and, I think what you're doing is awesome and that you're on the right track, and I'm always pulling for you, and, I'm hoping that you're gonna crush it, which you are. So,
Thank you, man.
like I said, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here so much. And everybody that came to the stream, thank you so much for being here. And you can continue
Yes.
to show your support and appreciation by supporting Holy Roller, and they've got some music on Apple, Spotify. Go on over there, stream that. Follow them on Instagram. I will post the links in the comments section. And do me a favor, like, comment, share, subscribe, click on that bell for notifications for upcoming shows. And I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, I have a merchandising company, Hell's Heart Merch Co. Going over to hellsheartco.bigcartel.com. Use the code 20. No, I changed it again. Use the code podcast for 20% off your entire order. Fellow Canvas, Next Level, really soft tri-blend t-shirts, music, movie oriented. If you like those things, I think you'll be into them. Hand-drawn designs by my boy Justin Campbell from Violent Life, Violent Death. The
Nice.
QR code is actually up there in the corner of the screen now. StreamYard lets you do QR codes, so you can give it a scan and go over there and check it out. And yeah, my buddy John Cuccinello, come inside and meet my punk rock family on Rev HQ. 12% of the proceeds go to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. And my Sick of It All shirt, Lou. There's also a Pete edition, but head on over to their Instagram, place an order. One is 30. There's two, both of them for 50. Please support, helps lose medical expenses. Everybody, I want to thank you guys so much for being here. Namaste. God bless. Be good. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Hell's Heart, lights again, money, power.